Happiness is beautiful, it's a kind reality. Happiness is the highest good, happiness is free. So let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy.
Welcome to the Happiness Show. I'm Claudia Basson, and this is George Ortega, and I'm here to talk about happiness because happiness is, always has been, and always will be the point of it all. Right, George?
Right, Claudia.
Today we're going to be talking about what? Happiness summer camps?
Yes.
Excellent. What a great idea, first of all. That's your child.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, it's like a wonderful idea because, like, remembering back to my childhood, I remember like summer camp was the most fun I had ever had in life, you know? And the idea is that, all right, summer camps are a great place to enjoy life, but they can also be a great place to teach children who may not all be that happy, because a lot of kids aren't all that happy, you know, how to become happier, and just the idea that happiness is really what life is about.
Yes, and why aren't they happy is a real good question. And how does camp help that? And that's what we want to try to talk about today.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So that's the basic idea.
Yep.
Where do we go from here?
Okay, well, the idea is that, like, you know, happiness camps, there aren't any yet, right?
Happiness camps don't exist.
Right.
We need to put some into existence.
Absolutely. And the idea, I mean, how do we motivate either people who own camps already or people who know people who own camps to recognize the value of these camps? I mean, for you know, I don't know how competitive the camping industry is.
I think it's very competitive.
All right, so this would be a great angle, great kind of edge that a camp could have over other camps. That, you know, if they part of this would be like, for example, a kid goes to one of these camps, right? Learns how to become happier. Now, as part of these camps, they would be measuring the kid's level of happiness, and you measure it on day 1, and then measure it on day 14 or 21, however many weeks they're there.
So we'd have to figure that part of it out. So I would say if there was a demand for happiness camps,
right,
then there would be a supply.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, for example, like with cell phones. Okay, like before they were introduced to the market, there was no demand for it, right? Nobody thought of it.
Now,
so,
who can live without a couple of cell phones?
Yeah. So like, you know, you get like maybe 1 or 2 camps, you know, creating, you know, this happiness theme, you know, as part of the regular, you know, swimming, baseball.
So how would you market that? So what would you say? It would be a great idea as part of our program to also have happiness activities, that we try to instill happiness, try to have kids who, you know, are natural leaders or naturally happy, connect and bond with kids who aren't. I mean, what would you have to write a whole, you know,
well,
program?
I think, yeah, you know, that there are like tennis camps, there are like computer camps, there are soccer camps, basketball camps.
But people want to play these sports.
Right, no, and they would, because, you know, in any of the like in a computer camp, right, there are pools, there are like sports and stuff, but they learn what they want to learn, the computer stuff. This camp would have as the predominant theme to teach kids, especially those kids that are like not enjoying life. They're like, you know, their parents might be noticing that they're not like out playing with friends. They're like just like, you know, alone too often. Yeah. So this would be especially useful to kids like that really need to get the message that happiness is what it's about.
And when you write up something like that for a camp that might be interested in adding that to their roster of programs, you might want to call it break down happiness and help them understand what they can actually do to help kids connect to this concept.
Yes, because
it sounds a little corny sometimes. We got Mr. Happy here, and it's not all about just smiling. It's about a feeling.
Absolutely, you know? and it's a feeling that that we often need to understand, because, you know, it's not like, you know, a lot of times our parents don't really teach us this, and it's not really something we learn in schools. So there really is a science to it and a philosophy. Mm-hmm. And like, for example, you know, it's like, let's say the kids take a hike to some lake or a camp out, and maybe in addition to like the scary stories at night or something, you could have
good. Those are good.
Oh yeah. But you know, you could have like, you know, just basic like happiness theory in a way that the kids will enjoy.
Happiness theory. What do you mean?
Well, for example, the most successful people in life are not the straight A students. This may not be something that some parents may, appreciate.
Yeah, they don't like hearing that.
Right, but that's
because they value
fact.
the straight A's much more so than their child is happy.
Right, which is something like, for example, if you've got a kid, and this is important because this wouldn't be just about what the kids themselves could do to become happier. This could also be how they can kind of like advise their parents.
Absolutely, and maybe what parent visiting day can be all about, like parent visiting week or something, and
Right.
have them in a separate area, of course, because it's good to have them apart, since that's what camp is about, really separating, individuating a little bit, having a good time without mom and dad there, and sort of help them understand the concept as well.
As a matter of fact, they do have those visiting days, and like the kids could put on a skit or some kind of a play.
What a
that
great idea.
happens.
Well, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, but also like with the idea of like let's say a parent is like really pressuring their kids to do really well in school, straight A's, whatever. I mean, it's very important to them, right? Now, a kid goes to one of these summer camps. He learns that the most successful people in life are the people who get maybe B's or so, but who have good social skills, who know how to balance life and work, or leisure and work. So these kids could really explain all this to their parents to help the parents know how to parent them better.
Well, kids explain everything to their parents anyway. It wouldn't be any different.
Yeah, that's true. But like a kid might explain to their parents, like, well, I really need this Nintendo. This Nintendo's
Got to have the
make me
Xbox.
really
We have to
happy.
stand in line in the rain and get the Xbox.
Absolutely. So the kids, I mean, they're as clueless as anyone in terms of happiness. So they may get these dozen toys from the parents. They may not, but that's not going to make them happier, So yeah, it's like the kids have to learn this too for their own benefit.
Absolutely. So it's, they're needed. So we decided that they're definitely needed, these camps.
Oh yeah.
I mean, any camp really is there because it's getting away from home. It's fun. And camp should be fun. I mean, kids keep friends from camps for years. Then they end up working there when they get to be seniors or something in high school. So something like, let's see, how would they teach happiness in a camp? Like, do you actually teach it?
I think you would. I think it would probably start the week before camp begins with the counselors. I mean, generally the counselors go to these camps a week before to learn how to, how to counsel the kids, how to be their supervisors.
So it's like a crash course in happy
Exactly.
teaching.
So you first teach the counselors. Then, how like, remember in camp, like there was like a nature, there was a sports, there was arts and crafts, there were the different sessions. So,
Swim.
Twice a day, yeah, and swimming. I mean, because you've got to include all the activities that are in regular camp, right? But let's say twice a day, you have 45-minute happiness instruction sessions where they could be fun. They could actually use like acting skills to act out some of the theory, or they could have just like, all right, this is very important. There are about like 3 classic happiness experiments, and one of them was published in 1980. These psychologists demonstrated that just by talking about happiness, not even being instructed, just by discussing topics related to happiness, the subjects in those experiments became about 25% happier in about 4 weeks.
So how do they account for that? How do they measure it, first of all? How do you measure that?
All right, well, there are fortunately, measuring happiness is actually much more accurate than measuring many other kind of like psychological measures. The first thing they'll do is, like, for example, on a scale of 1 to 10, they'll ask the kid how happy they are. I mean, it should probably be 1 to 100, to add, include more variation. Another way is like by using kind of like phrases like, do you feel very happy, extremely happy, somewhat happy? And so, fortunately, measuring happiness is something that they can do very accurately,
Is there an inventory of happiness, a happiness inventory?
There are several. Michael Fordyce, I think, created one of the strongest measures. It's also one of the most simple. It really is a 1 to 10 scale, and it's not just a 1 to 10 scale, but it again includes a phrase. Saying like somewhat happy, mildly happy, extremely happy. So and it's really that easy.
And okay, measurements year after year, and then how would parents benefit, do you think, from kids being in
Well, that's important because, like, you know, selling.
First of all, without having to say another word about it, it's just great to have the kids out of the house. I mean, let's face it, some parents and some marriages are struggling, and there's some discord in the household, and I think it's number one, perfect to get the kids out of the house and let them do their own thing and be in a setting that's much more, you know, better for their development.
Oh yeah, the parents get their lives back for 2-3 weeks or so.
I mean, they can sort things out. You know, I think it's break time. I think that's another great thing about camps, you know. So camps help kids grow and develop, and they help, you know, get kids out of the house. So parents benefit, I guess, from their peace and, you know, quiet.
Right, but also
the effects that happiness will have on their kids when they come home from camp.
Exactly, because I mean, the average, like 1 out of every 4 people in the United States at any given time is mildly depressed, and this includes kids. You know, kids as a population aren't really any happier than adults.
This is why I have a job, George.
Exactly. So you know about this. So like, the idea is, and there are a lot of kids that just like they're at home moping. They're like, you know, they're like complaining to their parents and stuff. So like, my God, to have you know, because again, you've got to. You want to sell the kids on this, but the kids I think are easy to sell. A happiness camp, you know, sports plus happiness. I think they'd be fine with it. But for the parents to realize that sending a kid to a camp like that, you know, in 3 weeks this camp will have potentially created a different person. You know, the little monster is like demanding everything every minute of the day. Hey, everything's great. No, you can just do whatever you want.
You know, I always have struggled with the concept, that happiness word that we use, you know, here a lot. You know, happiness this, happiness that, happiness camps. I don't know. How do you feel about calling it a happiness camp? You think that appeals to kids?
I think it does, and I'll tell you why. Because, like, for many adults, the term happiness is, like, trite. It doesn't have clout. Money.
And it's existential. You know, happiness. Mm-hmm.
Right, and part of the reason it's so like abstract and existential is because, you know, it's not part of like our culture. You know, we don't learn about it and stuff. But yeah, I think that fortunately in society, the term happiness is beginning to get more understood and accepted. And I think the kids will take to it. And again, with the parents, yeah, I mean, you call it a happiness camp, but then like, you focus on the benefits. Like, for example, it's not just about happiness. As these kids become happier, they're going to do better in school.
Absolutely.
They're going to, oh yeah.
That's key.
Yeah, because I mean, again, you know, for whoever owns these camps, the sell is really much more to the parents than to the kids. And if a parent is much more concerned about the kids' academic performance, their behavior, than their happiness, that's fine. You know, because happiness can be a really powerful route to these other goals in life.
Mm-hmm. So in general, how does society benefit? You just really summed it up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my God, you know how it would benefit? Happiness isn't in schools yet. Now, getting happiness into schools is going to be a tough sell because, you know, the schools have limited resources. They now have to like structure their classes to prepare their kids to pass these yearly exams, because if they don't
standardized testing.
Oh yeah, so I mean, like, to have these camps have this documentation, this before after, and it could, you know how like they measure the happiness, like they might measure it before the kid goes to camp
and they
3
show
weeks
up
later,
right.
But then Claudia, year after year, you know, have a comparison, because I mean, part of this would be measuring kids at normal camps, at other camps that aren't teaching happiness, and like if over a few years there's a correlation, there's a high correlation between the kids going to camp and not only becoming happier, but doing better in school, becoming more emotionally healthy, the schools will follow suit. The schools will see that data and see that it's in line with their goals to help the kids become happier too.
So that's a great first test, is having camps that really, what are they, 8 weeks long? And that's a great way to start out a program, a whole, you know, outline around developing a happiness program for schools.
Exactly.
Except that we don't have the activities in schools, so, you know, how do you go to class and get interested in talking about happiness? We'd have to be really progressive, really dynamic, you know?
Yeah.
Because camp has that dynamic built in. Okay, now we're going to go, rowing. We're going to go on the lake. We're going to go for a swim. We're going to jump off a cliff with a parachute on. There's a lot of fun things to do that you can endorse that happy feeling. And has a kid identified not being happy, being mildly happy with being, extremely happy, There's a big range. So, you can do that in a camp setting. It's hands-on, it's fun, it's active, it's dynamic. But to transfer that into a school setting, that's a challenge.
Right, and I think part of the key would be that, they're taking out a lot of these extracurricular parts of school, like music.
They are so taken out of the programs. There's no money being spent on it. We've all known this, right?
Right.
Arts, music. Even gym is they're not even putting money into equipment. When I went to high school, we had uneven parallel bars, and we had, great mats and trampolines, and it was ridiculous. We had little uniforms we could wear, and they don't have that in school now. You bring sneakers, maybe, and, there's a couple of balls, and there's basketball, and there's games.
Right.
But some schools really value it more than others, but they have more money perhaps to spend than others, and that's always clear. But so how do you make that transfer?
Okay, I think the problem is that the music and the sports and art has been taken out because there hasn't apparently been a correlation, a demonstrated correlation between the kids attending these kinds of courses and they're doing better in school or in life. Maybe there is a correlation.
There has to be somewhere.
Right.
I'm thinking of.
But see, the idea is that kids, I think, could definitely benefit. I think they're missing those kinds of breaks, from the real hard academic courses. So, getting back to the camps, if camps can demonstrate that, they could structure courses that are teaching kids how to become happier, but not in the classic classroom way. In other words, classrooms tend to be lectures.
Absolutely, note taking.
Right.
Yes.
So these camps the classes that these camps would introduce would be much more fun. Much looser, much more relaxed, It would free the kids to just enjoy themselves more. And ideally, what would happen is that. Again, you have the correlations that as kids become happier, they'll begin to do better in school, and that's what schools are very concerned with, so that when trying to get happiness into the school systems, I think the schools, as long as the kids who are attending those courses are doing better in school as a result, and causing less behavioral problems and stuff, I think the schools at the bottom line will accept that these classes are not conventional, that they're not, classically academic, that the kids are just much more fluid and enjoying themselves.
Yeah, so you really couldn't mimic the camp environment in a school. We'd have to figure out some kind of design that would, just have it fit in and be workable just in that different setting.
Yeah.
Unless you want to make it like an activity. Rather than classroom, because you're mentioning classroom in a camp environment, and boy, is that a turn-off. Who the heck wants to go to class and camp? You want to, unless it's outside and, it's something fun. It's an organized activity.
Well, and the thing is, again, getting back to this idea about how happy it is, how easy it is to become happier, if it takes just discussions, for example.
Like rap groups, you mean?
Exactly. Back in the 60s, everyone loved rap groups. That's a component that schools rarely institute. They once in a while have these debates or discussions, but, generally it's like lecture, question, answer.
It's like an open, interactive type of a situation.
Yeah, like how to become happy. They could talk about how to enjoy school more, how to enjoy preparing for tests, how to enjoy, let's say, vacation with their parents, how to enjoy getting along with their friends, how to enjoy, all these, and these, since it wouldn't be, let's say, anyone really teaching them, it would kind of like be more like the Socratic way of like, you know, just learning by asking questions, like having the kids figure all this stuff out on their own.
Right, which is better than saying how to, because then they're going to think they're going to learn, you know, how to. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, and D. Rather than that approach, it's more like just enjoying, you know, this, or doing this, or, you know, just talk. It's a discussion. It's open. You can bring something in to talk about relating to the topic.
Right, and also, you know, like, since it's a discussion, I think the group facilitator, whether it's at a camp or at school, one of the key roles would be to make sure that everyone is part of the discussion, because a lot of, you know, happiness is so much about other people, and so many kids aren't as happy as they could be because they're shy, because they're not comfortable expressing themselves with other people and all. So if you have these courses that demands that they get involved and gives them the opportunity to get involved in a really pleasant way, because these things are going to be fun, then that would really help these kids to really come out of themselves and really just be much more emotionally healthy with regard to other people.
Yeah, yeah, cool.
I'm thinking like, again, you know, with this episode, I mean, how do we, we've got to like motivate people to...
Got to get people started to think about wanting to pursue a summer camp. That's a happiness camp.
Exactly. To you know, the people who own camps, because I guess because this, you know, we're tending to kind of like think about this in terms of like sleepaway camps, but I mean there are like thousands and thousands of
day camps. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially locally here in Westchester.
So here's the thing, Claudia. I mean, like, again, you measure, you gear this. All right, you know, camps I think have their targeted kids, you know, whether they're like upper class, middle class, lower class, athletic, you know, into computers, whatever. So you structure.
And there's academic camps as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, you know, the selling point of this is like it's geared toward kids that that aren't enjoying life. They may be seeing a therapist because maybe they're not like, you know, they have issues with their friends at schools or something. They're not really enjoying life, and that's causing a problem not only for themselves, for the parents, right? And especially for the parents, because it's going to be a sell to the parents. So you target these kids, and these kids, and that's the selling point. That's the idea that, like, you know, if you target these kids, one of the findings in happiness research is that these happiness techniques, strategies, work much better the less happy a person is. You know, if you've got somebody who starts out really being happy, it's much harder to make
that's the best point.
Blissed out.
Absolutely.
So you target these you know, not so very happy kids, and like you show, again, within 3-4 weeks or something, a dramatic change in their happiness. That's the selling point. You know, just getting like commercials, getting testimonials, getting kids on you know, they could have infomercials about this. It'd be so awesome.
It would be awesome to do infomercials about this. That I would love. And so you would compile a bunch of data that supports this point. And then here goes my cell phone.
What the? That's all right.
That's a great song. And then you'd have to somehow disseminate the information to the community at large.
Right.
And this way they can take a look at it and say, wow, look at this. You know, maybe, you know, Karen and Steve would really benefit from this type of a summer program. It's a very long ringing phone.
Yeah, that's fine. But the other thing is that, you know, like, I think most camps advertise through these magazines where they'll have, like, you know, a picture of a lake and, you know, camp.
Yeah, so we put Mr. Happy in the picture?
Right. But the thing is, like, you know, this camp is scientifically proven to make kids an average of, let's say, 20, 30, 40% happier in 3-4 weeks. But in addition, kids who attend this camp end up doing better in school, end up getting along better with their friends, behaving better at home. Yeah. So you have that whole sell as part of the ad. Yeah,
good.
That would be cool. That would be cool.
So if people are interested in a camp like this, or designing a portion of their camp activities around achieving happier campers, where can they write? How can they talk about it and get more information?
That's a good point, because like, we're talking like a lot about like getting people who, let's say, know people who own camps or people who own camps to do this. I think as parents, you might want to have people, parents who want to send their kids to camp start kind of like requesting this, talk to their camp director, the owner of the camp that they generally send their kids to. Hey, listen, there's this documentation, as kids become happier, they do better in school, etc., or that within 3-4 weeks of instruction, a person can become much happier. We'd like to see this in this camp, so parents can absolutely do that.
Yeah, that's a hard sell only because they don't want it, they just want to sign the check, don't they?
Is that okay?
And pack the bag and say bye-bye.
All right. This may take the may require like an entrepreneur or somebody who owns a camp to really create such an effective system that
everybody wants to do.
Absolutely.
That's the best. To me, that's the best way to approach it. I mean, there are camps where people go sailing, for like an entire summer, and that's the.
Well, and again, the beauty about a camp like this would be that it's not going to be much different than an ordinary camp. And a great thing. So
kids from inner cities can go, and we can really focus on that part of the programming for them.
Sure. And another
local camps you're talking about.
Huh?
You're talking about local camps.
Absolutely, camps, camps at the local high school. I mean, I think there's one here in White Plains at the White Plains High School.
Yeah.
I mean, this could be like after-school programs and things like that.
Sure, right.
But another ideal part of this, I guess we only have about a minute and 15.
We have about a minute and 15.
But one thing that we could, that is good about this is that camps are an ideal place to teach happiness because, part of teaching happiness is to have a person know how to focus on that feeling more.
Yes.
And when a kid is in a camp where they're just automatically enjoying themselves so much more, it's much easier to teach them about that feeling because they're going to be feeling it on a daily basis much more so anyhow. So
that's a way to train the brain chemistry as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we have 30 seconds left. Do we say bye-bye?
We say bye-bye.
Oh, we hate to go, though.
We hate to. No, we love to go. We love to go.
We're going. Happiness camps. Please write to us if you want to find out more about happiness camps. And thank you for tuning in with us. And what else do we say? I'm signing off for the first time, the new co-host.
Yeah, say, let's see.
Thanks for watching. We will explore other topics designed to help us better enjoy life, and that's the whole key of this show. So be good and think well. Feel very happy. And I hope you'll join us again next week here on The Happiness Show. Thanks, George.
Thank you, Claudia.
And thanks to everybody in the studio. Bye-bye.
Happiness is powerful. It's our underlying need. Happiness is why we live each day. Happiness is destiny. So let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy. Let's be so very happy.